tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want. Wah!
All right, welcome back to Hobby Vomit. It is me, Matt, and I'm here for another video about 5 more books. So if you're new to the series, welcome, or you're new to the channel, welcome. Basically, in this little series, I just, instead of doing the whole monthly thing or weekly thing, I'm just going to jump on here every time I read 5 books and then talk about those 5 books. And here, there's a little bit of an exception to that. So I'm sure it's in the title or in the picture. But let's talk about this video is going to be 4 books that I finished and 1 DNF. So let's start with the DNF. It's Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm out. I'm done. I'm over it. I've tried. This is like the most I've tried. I read the first book and it was fine. It's fine. Actually, and let me preface this by saying I think that this series only works because of the audiobook. I think you take away the audiobook performance that Jeff Hayes does, and this series wouldn't have ever blown up. That's what I think. I don't think it's good enough to have ever to warrant the fandom it has without Jeff Hayes' performance. It single-handedly carries this series, and I think there's evidence of that. Whenever there's any criticism online about this series, people say, "Whoa, did you listen to the audiobook? Did you listen to the audiobook?" And it's like, if it can't hold up without listening to the audiobook, then it's not a good book. But I digress. I don't think it's a very good series. So I've read book 1 or listened to book 1. Had a good time. It was fine. Very repetitive in nature. There's 0 character work in the series, and it was just like, I think the best parts about the series are it's super creative. It's very, very creative, and it's funny. There's a good amount of humor, and it's pretty good humor too. It's humor that works for me. Seems to work for a lot of people. But as far as like the context and content, I don't think I think it's lacking. There's not. It's not very deep at all. It's a very shallow series of just, we're going to do some stats, then we're going to go to the next fight, we're going to do a fight, then we're going to talk about stats and level up, and then peppered in there for book 1 there was some lore dumping, not as much in book 1. Then book 2 started, and it was the perfect like bridge gap between stats and exposition dumps. And so it was a lot. There was less stats, which was nice. But for all that time that got replaced, it was just with dumping of information in a way that's literally just like, I'm going to tell you the rules of this level for 45 minutes, and just like take it all in, and that's it. It's like there's some funny ha-has in there as well, but it's just that's what it is. And so book 2 got a little bit better, I think, maybe. There's, again, not zero, like 1% character development in that book, and in book 2, which a lot of people say, oh, there's more character development as we go on, blah, blah, blah. But the only character development that happens in book 2 is literally Carl being like, wow, you've grown. And then that's it. And he says it, and he thinks it. And it's like, all right, I guess that's character development because you say that you've grown. So cool, I guess. But that was it. And then I got to book 3. And I know that this one's pretty divisive too. Some people love it. Some people think it's the worst. I think any of them, like 1 through 3, you'll hear people say this is the worst one. But never like 4 and onward. I think the general consensus, once you hit 4 and onward, it kind of like hits its stride. But I don't know. I made about 2.5 hours into this audiobook, and literally nothing happens. It's just them dumping lore and level rules or fights. And like, I'm done. I'm done with it, guys. I'm done. So DNF, Dungeon Crawler Carl, I don't care if it gets better. I actually really doubt it gets better. I think people have a bit of a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing. They're 4 books deep and they can't admit to themselves that's just not good. But personal taste. Yeah, it's fine. It's not. I wouldn't say it's bad. And maybe I did earlier, but I think it's more of just it's not living up to my expectations. I don't think it's bad. There's a lot of creativity in there. It's fun. Maybe I just don't like lit RPG. I think that's a big part of it. But I'm also a character-driven reader, and the character work in this series, at least through 2.5 books, is non-existent. It doesn't exist, and so it's not enough to carry it on just the funny ha-has. It's just not enough for me anymore. So great performances. Like I said earlier, I actually think this series would not be popular if it weren't for Jeff Hayes. So bravo. I mean, it's super fun to listen to, but I just find myself tuning out, even with the great performance, because the content is just so lacking. It's just very repetitive. It's just not great. So, anyways, rant over. I did it. I ranted. Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm not gonna finish the series. Matt Dinman. Good for him. I mean, seriously, it's fun to see a fandom as big. I want to be a part of it. I'm sad that I'm not, because that's why I started reading it, because it just seems like everyone's having such a good time, and I wanted to have a good time too. But it does seem like this is almost like the new Sanderson, where if you criticize it, you just get dunked on. So bring it. I would like to see some more booktubers not be afraid to say what they really think. You've seen some out there that have started to, but the comment sections are just riddled with, "Oh, did you listen to the audiobook? Did you listen to the audiobook? It gets great in book 6." And I'm just like, meh. Okay, done. Let's get to the actual books I read. The actual good books on this list. Got them. All right, so the first book that I read was for our family book club, and that is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Classic horror. You're also going to see this is kind of a boring, as far as my ratings go, not all over the place, other than DNF being, if I had to rate the third Dungeon Crawler Carl, it'd be a 1, I think. But I don't think it's fair to rate books you don't finish, so just a DNF. But this is a 4-star overall. To quickly give my BARF ratings, and I guess I should say, if you're new to our BARF ratings, we rate every book out of 4 different categories. B is for believable. How believable are the characters in their setting? A is authorial voice, so prose and world building, and just did the author accomplish what they set out to do? R is rhythm, for the plotting and the pacing, and F is for feeling. Was there any emotional impact? Will I basically, what will I be thinking of this book? 5 years, 10 years. Will this book stick with me? So those are the 4 categories. Score them each out of 5. And then my final score for the book is just the average of those things. So Exorcist for, I'll go ahead and just say the 4 ratings, my final rating, and I'll talk a little bit about it. Spoiler free. So believable, gave this a 4 for character work. Authorial voice, I gave this a 4.25. For rhythm, a 3.5. And for feeling, a 4, for an average of 4. I like this book. I think the thing with horror in fiction is that, for me, I love horror. I love horror video games. I love horror, movies, just media. Horror media, I love it. But a horror book, I think you get I read this with my family, and a lot of people have the same reaction. And I've seen other people in the booktube community, or just a lot of people read it this year, and almost everybody says the same thing. It's not as scary as I thought it would be. And I agree, it's not. But I don't think I'll ever read a book that I find scary. They're situationally scary, but a book's not gonna keep me up at night. I'm not turning a page and getting spooked from a book. I think that's just the reality of the medium of a book. And then you couple that with, I think religion's kind of an all-time low right now. So I think a lot of people that were scared of The Exorcist, like myself, the movie at least, growing up, I watched it when I was a religious person, and that terrified me because the lessons that this teaches you. But yeah, not really scary, more disturbing. Some of the scariest parts, kind of like a Pet Sematary, are just as a parent what you have to watch your children go through. Like, that is a scary thing conceptually, and being helpless and powerless to do anything, that is scary situationally, but it's not, keeping me up. It's not making me turn the light on in my closet at night. So, but all that being said, I thought it was a great book. I think his writing is excellent. I thought the character work was really, really great. I think the changes that they made for the movie make sense, but I also really liked the parts they took out. We're following 3 or 4 main characters, and I thought all of them were super compelling. They meshed well. There's a nice mystery element to this. I think the thing that brought it down for me the most, especially in the pacing with rhythm, I gave it a 3.5, and I do think there are some slow moments in the book. There's large sections of science and like trying to deduce or rule out different symptoms using scientific evidence, which makes sense for the context of the book and for the character doing it. I just found myself a little bored. And so, I think that's really what hurt the most was the pacing. Sometimes it would slow way down, but generally I thought it was really good. It's an interesting book reading after watching the movie. It's hard not to compare it. I could see this being really interesting if, the movie never existed. You just pick this up. You don't know whether the possession is real or if it is something of science or psychologically, and I think that mystery would be more fun to uncover if the movie didn't exist, but it is what it is. You kind of know, as the reader going in, what the truth is. So I think it takes a little bit of the tension out of it, but I don't think that's any fault of the book. It's just because the movie's out. So 4 out of 5 for The Exorcist. All right, if you see me looking over here, oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at my wrong. I was looking at the wrong book. So sorry. Let me go over my scores again for Exorcist. It was 4.5 for believable, 4 for authorial voice, 3.75 for rhythm, and 3.75 for feeling. So yeah, that makes more sense because I do think the character work was the star of this book. So 4.5 feels more in line than the 4. So all right, moving on to Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie. This is a weird book, a very strange book to review. So if you don't know what this is a collection of short stories that take place in the First Law universe, but almost need to be read in a very specific point in, the timeline of the First Law. So it is suggested to read this after the 3 standalone books. So technically book 7 would be this. But before the Age of Madness. So that's what Bree and I did. We did a little mixture of reading and listening to Sharp Ends. I really, it's Joe Abercrombie in the First Law. It's hard not to like, but this is not like, when I think about short story collections like Stephen King, it's usually a lot of horror. I'm sure there are others, just the ones that I've read. I would not suggest this to somebody. I actively think that if somebody just picked this up randomly and they didn't know who Joe Abercrombie was or anything like that, I think they'd really dislike it because it really does hinge on you having read the First Law, because these are not short stories like a Stephen King where it's very self-contained and you can kind of, you get everything you needed out of that short story. These are just like slices in time, and some of them very little happens, or it is counting on you knowing of an event that happened in another book. So it's hard to rate it because I loved it, because I love Joe Abercrombie. I love the First Law, but I would not recommend this to anybody unless you are exactly where I'm at in the First Law. So it is a very weird book to review, but my scores are for believable 4.5, authorial voice 4.5, rhythm 3.5, and feeling 3.5. So yep, authorial voice makes sense. It's Joe Abercrombie. His prose is excellent. Character work 4.5. It's Joe Abercrombie. That's a strength. Rhythm, yeah, like I said, if I weren't invested in the universe, some of the stories are very slice of life. Nothing happens. Like literally almost nothing happens in some of them, but it's just a joy to read. I think that's why the rhythm kind of goes down. And then feeling 3.5, like I'm only emotionally connected because I've already read the other ones. I don't think I'll think about most of the stuff in this book ever again, probably. So 3.5 is the highest I could give it. So yeah, overall a 4 out of 5. Like I said, not a lot of variance from book to book here this time. All right, next we read Little Eve by Catriona Ward. So, which might be sound like a weird way of saying I actually happened to stumble upon an interview with Catriona, and they were asking her like, "How do you pronounce your name?" Like I've heard Catriona and Katrina, and she's like, "It's actually Catriona." I was like, "Okay, so Catriona." Maybe she's trolling, and I've been trolled. I don't know. But yeah, Little Eve by Catriona Ward. I had previously read The Last House on Needless Street and loved it. Was like very surprised at how much I liked it. And so then for Bree and I's breeding, I kind of just said, hey, why don't you go pick out 5 books that sound interesting to you, and then I'll choose one of those 5. So she picked out 5, and then we narrowed it down to more like 2 as far as like what we are trying to read. And then yeah, I chose this. It sounded good. And yeah, we both had a great time. And I was surprised because Catriona Ward's books are very middle of the road score wise on like Goodreads or Storygraph. And I know Last House on Needless Street was supposed to be her best. And so I was kind of thinking like it'll probably be okay and then I'll move on. But we both really surprisingly liked it. So let me give you my score. Believable, 4 out of 5. Authorial voice, 4.5 out of 5. Rhythm, 3.75 out of 5. And feeling, 3.75 out of 5. Yeah, so a 4 overall. Like I said, nothing too exciting from no deviation book to book. But yeah, so this is a story. It's a story about a cult in the early 20th century living on an island off the coast of Scotland. And man, I feel like her writing really transports you there, and you feel the total isolation of being like you kind of the way she writes like as an author here, very different from Needless Street. Still got the same like mysterious like dream like you never know. There's some unreliable narrator. The mystery is revealed to you throughout the book. But as far as like the prose, it felt like early 20th century. It was very beautiful, very gothic, and it just worked really, really well for me. Surprisingly, it's a little slow at moments. It's not gonna be action packed nonstop, but I think the payoff is there. And yeah, I really liked it, and I wrote in my review, and I'll say it here too. Stop saying books are bad because you guess the ending. It's such a dumb criticism. And yeah, you look at all of Catriona Ward's books, and people are like, "Guess the ending. Book sucked. This book sucks. I knew what was coming. The twists weren't even twists." And I'm like, first of all, she herself doesn't even call them twists. She calls them reveals, and that's exactly what they are. She's not rug pulling you. She's not like gotchaing you. She's just revealing things things are revealed to the reader, and that's exactly what happens. And I think it's handled very, very well. I think if you liked Last House on Needless Street, you should try Little Eve. It is slower. It's a little tougher. It's got more of a learning curve in the prose because of the time setting, but I found it excellent, especially as like a cult isolation. It's not really horror, but borders on supernatural. It's good. We really liked it. Okay, and then finally, another book I was expecting to not like, Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence, because look how silly. This cover is silly, I'm sorry. But it kind of works exactly for what Jorg is. So this is another very, very not super well-reviewed book. But I wanted to try Mark Lawrence because I've just heard great things from people I trust. And yeah, I really like this. So scores were 4 for believable, 4.25 for authorial voice, 3.5 for rhythm, and 4 for feeling. Very memorable book for me, and maybe it's because of that whole expectation being flopped. But Jorg, this is a story. People say it's kind of like Game of Thrones a little bit, and it kind of is. There's a lot of very cool reveals in this book, setting-wise, and just lore and world building is just really great. It's the highest score it got. But it is a challenging book to read because Jorg is very, 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 very unlikable. He's not a fun, and that's not true. He's a fun character to follow, but he's not like someone you're rooting for the whole time. And so I see why people struggle with that. He does some pretty unspeakable things, but Mark Lawrence puts that up front and asks you to trust the process and, discover why throughout. So I really liked it, and I don't know. I'm excited to read. I've already started King of Thorns. His prose is really, really unique. He has aphantasia, which is where you can't picture things in your mind as you read them. And I feel like his prose is it really is what demonstrative of that. It reads unlike anything else I've ever read, but it really, again, just like Catriona Ward, it has a bit of a learning curve. But once I got into this, I could not put this book down. Every other book I was reading kind of took a second place or a back seat, so I could rip through this. And I'm excited to keep going because this is supposed to be his worst. So really enjoyed this. And yeah, those are the 5 books I read. Thanks for making it through if you got through the rant. And then, yeah, I'll see you probably not too long from now for the next 5 books that I read. I am Matt. It's Hobby Vomit, and we will catch you on the next one. Goodbye.